Namaste, namaste. What's up? This is Yogi Ev coming at you with another episode of Evan Talks. Thanks for coming to this episode. This is the show that takes deep dives into fascinating topics. Tonight we're starting our deep dive into self-sabotage. We're going to be starting with addiction and recovery tonight. My featured guest is Vasavi Kumar. You're going to want to see this interview. Next week, we're going to be going deeper into self-sabotage, why we do it, how we stop it. This is a fascinating deep dive we're starting here, and it's going to help a lot of people. You're going to want to watch all these episodes. Now, last week, we finished our medical cannabis deep dive. You can catch the replays if you want to see all three of those episodes. I went deep into medical cannabis, every aspect of it to get you a working knowledge you can use in real life. There will be links in the description of this video. You can also just go to the Evan Talks channel, which is at Evan Talks on YouTube. So you go to youtube.com/Evan Talks. Please subscribe to the channel, like and share the videos, and get notifications so you know whenever we come out with new content. I'll be coming at you every weekend with fresh content. Let's get right into the content tonight. Vasavi Kumar is a superstar change agent. She's often called the kick in the ass people need to get over yourself and get shit done. She is also an author. She is also bipolar and a recovering addict, and my featured guest tonight on Evan Talks. Please welcome to the show, Vasavi Kumar. Hey, Vasavi, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Evan. Thanks so much for having me.
So I'm really excited that you made time to talk with me today. Our subject is addiction and recovery. I know you're in a sober living facility right now. I've already done your introduction, so everybody knows the kind of work you do, but tell us a little bit more about that and your story with addiction and recovery. As you know, the topic for this week and next week is self-sabotage. Why do we do it and how do we stop it? And I know you're coming particularly from the place of addiction and relapse and recovery. And so with that said, I'd like to just kind of sit back quiet and let you tell your story, and then I'll come back with questions in a little bit. Take your time.
Okay. Thanks. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. And I always want to start with like where I'm at now, right? So where I'm at now, Monday I celebrated, what was Monday? Monday was the 19th. Monday was the 19th of February, and I celebrated 4 months of sobriety. I got to be honest, I haven't been 4 months sober like ever in my life. Like I've never been this long sober. And I don't mean like, like ever. Like I've always had, drinking, some form of drug usage, whatever, like since the age of 12. So this is the first time in my 35 years of living on this planet that I've gone this long, 4 months, being completely sober with no substances whatsoever.
Wow. I want to get into, I know I said I'd shut up for a while, but of course, Evan Talks is the name of the show. I want to get into the drugs you used to do when you were, 12 years old, and kind of how it kind of led to your usage habits, let's just say. And just to disclose and help you feel comfortable and let everyone know, I smoked my first joint when I was 11. By the time I got to college, I had already been addicted to and quit cocaine twice. I was then drug-free until for about a year, not counting smoking cannabis every day in my life, which I've pretty much done unless I have a sore throat. But I've done ecstasy. I've had a meth problem. I've come through prescription drug dependence. This is part of the thing that makes me fascinated by this topic. So I just want to let you know you're not getting judged here, and you can say anything here. You're in good company.
Oh, and even if I were getting judged, I don't give a fuck, Evan. Like, that's just where you're at when you've been through rehab and hit rock bottom. You just don't give a fuck what people think.
I get
it. Sorry, guys. Even if you're judging me, I don't really care because...
It's funny. That comes up in some of my political posts where people don't, I kind of have that attitude, and I think you just nailed it on the head where that comes from.
Yes. So, my drug... Okay, so when I first started... Well, first of all, when I was 12 years old, in order to join the cool crowd and all the cool girls, there are always those group of like bitchy girls who like run the world, run the 8th grade, and I was not one of them. So I really, really wanted to be a part of this group. You have to remember, My family was the one of only two Indian families in an all-white town. So I needed to fit in to survive. Like I had to. I was bullied all the time, beat up a few times, made fun of because my family's Hindu and my mom would always wear a red dot on her head. So I was like, fucking, I gotta, I've been, yeah. So these were the girls that I hated and I was petrified of, but I knew I had to do whatever I had to do to fit in, which included going against my morals and values. And therein started the road to disconnection from myself. I smoked my first cigarette when I was 12. They were all drinking and doing that. I hadn't done that yet. I still had my morals and values still somewhat intact. I said, okay, I'm going to smoke a cigarette because that's not illegal. But I'm going to do all this. But I'm not going to drink because I knew my father's brother was an alcoholic, so I didn't do that. But I smoked cigarettes. I smoked my first joint probably when I was a junior in high school.
You know, you bring up a really good point about cigarettes. I didn't even remember that I started smoking cigarettes long before I started smoking cannabis, because my big brother used to smoke cigarettes and I used to want to be cool like him. So I used to steal them from him. And really young, 5th, 6th grade, I was smoking cigarettes. 4th grade, actually, I was smoking cigarettes and lighting fires with my buddy Dave Griffman. And one time we lit an avocado tree on fire by mistake, and then we didn't know how to put out a fire. So we just put leaves on it until the fire went out and we thought we had done our job, and then we turned around and walked like 4 steps away and turned around, and now the whole tree was on fire. So anyway, cigarettes were my gateway drug, not cannabis, so that makes more sense.
Yeah, so cigarettes and then a joint, and I was like, I didn't even know what I was doing. And then after that, what did I do?
So that's what those girls were doing, mostly smoking cigarettes at school and stuff like that. Is that what you got into?
They were drinking and stuff also, but I just wasn't partaking in that. Like I was too afraid to do that. And so in high school, I started smoking a little bit of weed here and there. I got drunk for the first time when I was 14 at a family party. I drank White Russians, ew, and did that. It's like the bartender, he's so stupid, gave me one. I loved it. I immediately felt the effects because, like, I'm 14. Who doesn't feel the effects of alcohol right away? And then I had another one, and then I had another one, and then I had another one, and then I had another one. And that's what addiction is, right? In a nutshell, it's like the disease of more. We always want more. Like, it's never just one slice of pizza. It's like 3 slices of pizza. It's never just one drink. It's 5 to 8 drinks. It's just more. Everything is about more all the time. Like, I remember when I was in college, I bought Pumas. But I bought 5 pairs of Pumas, all the same style, but different colors. I didn't think that was a problem, So
well, that's funny. We have a lot in common there. The first time I did coke, I was 15, and I was searching through my parents' room, like looking for their weed stash. And like we used to go to Acapulco for Christmas, and like from the time I was 12 or 13, they were okay with us smoking weed because I already smoked at home. But I always got good grades and all that. And like, judge my parents, fine, I worked out all right. But first time I did coke, I was looking for their weed, and I found my father for like 6 months in the 80s was doing cocaine. And during those 6 months, I found it and I was stealing it and doing it as well. But I didn't know much to do. So I know that in school, they showed us those movies. So I knew what a coke spoon was and how to do it. I didn't know how much to do. So I did 7 huge heaping spoons of coke in each nostril. I was 15 years old, and I was on my way to a bar mitzvah. So I remember being in like my little Pierre Cardin suit, like powder blue suit, and just started breaking out in a cold sweat, and my teeth started chattering, and I'm waiting to get picked up in the driveway, and it's cool out, but I'm like cold sweating, and I'm thinking like, this is great, and then my friend's mom came, picked us up, and looks at me, and I must have been ghastly white and cold sweating, and she's like, oh my God, Evan, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine, everything's great, let's go. That was my first thing on coke. So more, that makes a lot of sense. When you were 14 and you had your first drinks and you had many White Russians, were you able to hold your alcohol? Did you throw up?
I did hold my liquor. I did. I was in the car with my parents and I knew I had to hold it, and they had no idea. But one of my mom's friends' father called me a floozy to my dad. My dad had no idea what he was talking about. And she was like, yeah, your daughter was drinking. So anyway, whatever, he's gone. But, oh my God. And then in college, and then in high school, senior year, Did shrooms for the first time. That was awful. Definitely stayed away from psychedelics after that. Tried ecstasy for the first time going into college. Didn't like that. Tried cocaine for the first time sophomore year, and I loved it. But I did transfer back home from college. I went to BU after my sophomore year and came back to New York and just kept using drugs. Cocaine was my drug of choice. So cocaine was my drug of choice, people. Cocaine and alcohol was my drug of choice. Partied a lot. What saved me, and I'm doing this in a nutshell because I know that there's a lot more we can talk about, other than just the drugs that I used in my war stories. But he's now my ex-husband, but I met my then husband at the height of my addiction and promiscuity. And he kind of saved me. I was his damsel in distress, and he was my savior. I even said that in the wedding video, by the way. I was like, my husband saved me. I should have known that was a problem, and the marriage wouldn't last. But, I stopped using drugs after I got married. I met him, stopped using drugs, got married, didn't use drugs. Definitely still drank a lot, but didn't use any sort of cocaine or smoked weed or anything from the time that I met him until the time that I got divorced, which was a total of, I would say, 7, 5, 6, 8 years. I was sober for. Yeah,
now, where were you in this? I want to make a timeline with what you're talking about now and your initial rise to, I'd say, superstardom in the, I don't want to use the word coaching, but help people get their things done. And you took a rocket ship to the top. Basically, I think it was 2013, around that time, where you hit the scene and started getting a lot of exposure. Where were you then? I'm curious in your use. Were you off or were you on?
I was my superstardom, I would say, was when I was sober, 100%. Like no, in 2010, I had just been finishing up my second master's at Columbia social work. I went into my coach's training program. I was sober. Like when I say sober, I was not heavily using anything. Okay, I would like maybe drink now and then, but I wasn't using cocaine or I wasn't even smoking weed or anything. My superstardom really kind of like popped off in 2013. I just did a new rebrand of my website, which is not what you see now. What you see now is like a rebrand of that rebrand, but it was like I came out into the interwebs. I marketed myself heavily, was on a lot of different TV shows, I was a lifestyle expert. I was not using at all. But, I still have problems behind closed doors. Like my marriage wasn't great and my self-care wasn't that great, but I was really great at helping people. As are like a lot of people think addicts are selfish, and they're not, or they think they just don't care. But the thing is, we actually care very, very, very much. We care a lot about what people think about us. We care a lot about fitting in. So I did whatever I could to fit in, and I was very disconnected from self. So that was like 2013. I was 30. I was like about 30, 31 at that time. And I was doing really, really, really well, meaning like I reached a lot of like people knew who I was on the internet. I was on a lot of famous podcasts, was on VH1, Food Network, Kansas City Live for the whole year and a half while I was living there. Just a lot of people knew who I was on the internet. I had a very distinct voice and a very, very distinct message. I got divorced in 2014, at the end of 2014, November. And then that was really when everything went downhill. Like when I say I never thought I would do what I did after I got divorced, like I never thought that. So like I got divorced and my intention was to be alone. Like I had never been alone my entire life, right? I'd always lived in my father's house, lived with family, got married, had a man. I always had a man by my side, and I just wanted to be alone. And also my marriage sucked, so by the way, I'm very close to my ex. Like we just talked today, actually. We're fine. Like, he's like my best friend, but we don't talk a lot. But we care about it. We care about each other. We have a very pure love for each other. So I got my own place and I was in some group therapy and I met a guy in my group therapy. This was right after I got divorced. Met a guy, younger man, did not think it would end up like this. And I got involved with him. And I was like, okay, he's like, he's cute, whatever, 8 years younger than me. He was an addict just coming out of rehab. As something about women like me, I'm very codependent. Not, I'm working on it. I'm like actually broken free from a lot of my codependency. I attract and drawn to addicts and men that are broken, men that are projects, men that I can fix. I love it. It gives me a sense of purpose. I say all of this like facetiously because like I now know how fucked up that is. You know what I mean? Looking back 3 years back, I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Like my entire sense of purpose came from fixing a man or helping a man. Now it's one thing if you're doing it in your business and you're getting paid for it and doing it as a service. It's another thing when you're in an intimate relationship looking to feel a sense of purpose in your relationship by being needed. And do you know that when I got divorced, what I said to my mother, I said about my ex-husband, I was like, he just doesn't need me. Like, and now when I look back on it, that's the most ridiculous thing I have ever said. I'm leaving you because you don't need me. How about, oh, that's actually healthy. Like now looking back on it. So I went from my husband, who was a very independent man, to the guy that I started dating, who needed me very much because he was 24 when I met him, and I'm 8 years older. New in recovery, living in his mother's house. I mean, come on, like everything you read in a book, like it was like no car, no job, no Vasavi to the rescue.
Okay,
right?
So let's direct this forward. So I think a lot of people are attracted to projects like that. I've certainly been involved in that. Like we were talking about off camera, most of my relationships have been with bipolar women and many drug users as well. And there must be a reason for that. The intensity of the connection when things are flowing. You know, I'm a Gemini and like, I like, intensity. It doesn't freak me out at all. It actually, I'm comfortable with intensity because life is fucking intense, So I understand that. Again, there's no judgment there. But let's bring this back home to self-sabotage and addiction recovery and how that comes in. So, so it's, yes, we're attracted to the project and of the opposite sex or of whoever we're attracted to. But let's bring it back to Vasavi. Let's make it yesterday I asked you a question off camera. Today I want to ask you again if it's okay. Do you feel that there is a connection? I obviously think there is, and I'd like to explore it. I don't know if you do. A connection between your success when you were sober and your relapse into addictive behaviors, even though you're saying, and I can see that it might have been enabled by the relationship, but I think there might be a deeper connection there, and it might go to issues of self-sabotage and why do we do it? Is it possible that at some level you might have felt unworthy of the success that you had generated for yourself?
Well, I want to say that it's all tied. I'm not disagreeing with you, but it is all connected. So you just said unworthiness, right? This feeling of unworthiness showed up for me in the relationship. I didn't feel it when I was successful making a lot of money. I felt it in my relationship when I was cheated on. When I was cheated on, so the root of self-sabotage, right, is the feeling of unworthiness, right? So it is. Self-sabotage is, I don't deserve this. I'm not good enough for this. Who am I to have this? Or, low self-esteem or I'm, definitely the unworthiness. And so if that's the root of it, that's why I was going into the relationship, because in the relationship where a lot of infidelity took place, the minute that infidelity happened, I said to myself, oh my God, what did I do? And I must not be worthy of love. I must not be worthy of loyalty. And I didn't know how to handle that. So I didn't know how to handle those feelings. And so I did whatever I could do to fix it. Unfortunately, what I did to fix it involved drugs and alcohol. And that in and of itself sabotaged moving forward. Sure. My life, my career, even more of my self-esteem. I mean, but like I think it's important as a conversation when, I hear people say this all the time, Evan, like I just self-sabotage. It's like, okay, but why do you self-sabotage? Let's really look at why you self-sabotage. No one actually wants to self-sabotage, right? It's not a conscious act. Unless it is a conscious act, and then you probably need to go to a trauma therapist. You know what I mean? Because there's clearly a lot of trauma there that's going to make you consciously hurt yourself. But self-sabotage, what I have found in my personal experience, anytime I have sabotaged myself is because I do not believe that I am worthy enough of success, of the love, of getting whatever it is that I want. But it's also like waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? So if you people who grew up in families of chaos and drama and trauma, right? Where and there's some form of PTSD happening here, like fight or flight responses and stuff like that. If you grow up in houses of trauma and chaos, you are always waiting for the other shoe to drop. So one response to that is self-sabotage. So hear me out, right? So suppose you get a promotion at work. Yay, everything's great. I'm making more money. What does self-sabotage do? What does fear do? Fear will immediately come in and be like, yeah, but you're probably going to fuck it up. So what do? Instead of not wanting to fuck it up and getting fired, or no, instead of not wanting to deal with the consequences of maybe getting fired, we fuck it up for ourselves before somebody else can destroy it for us, right? It's like women who have been traumatized in relationships or have been betrayed multiple times are so terrified that their next relationship is not going to work. So they will screw it up before it gets screwed up for them. That is self-sabotage. That's what we do to self-sabotage, because we would rather be in control of our own chaos and failure than have it be done to us.
Okay, so let me follow the I resonate with almost everything you're saying, obviously, which is why I wanted to talk to you on this show. We have, different lives, but a lot of similarities and some very similar energetic, I think, tendencies towards all of these issues. I think it's really interesting when people are, whether it's in a personal relationship or, like you mentioned, at work, a career opportunity, any of the above, that just when things, I mean, this happened to me many times in my life, just when things are starting to go well, you think, just like you said, you're either going to fuck it up or you won't be able to sustain it or something's going to happen. I deal with, my own disclosure. Every week I started this new show. I've been wanting to do this show for years. I finally got it off the ground. Every week I have to talk down the demons telling me I won't find the guest for this week. I won't get the edit done on time. I won't keep up the quality. I mean, it's just constant vigilance to be like, okay, fine. I hear you. Great. We're going to do it anyway. Let's see how it works out. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Okay, I hear you. All the negative voices. We're all together in this, and I'm driving. So you guys can sit there and try not to chatter too much. I got shit to do. It's tough. This is a very empowering part of the curve that I'm on, but it took me years to get here. And that's why I'm so drawn to your story. So what I want to ask you next is this. As you're starting to slip down this path, okay, towards relapse and self-harm, where were you in your business at that time? And how did your kind of downward spiral impact the work you were doing as you were doing it? And how did you recover from that, or how are you recovering from that now?
You know what my sponsor said? She said that I couldn't ever, so I told you I was sober in my marriage, right? And then I relapsed when I got into this new relationship. And she said to me, you didn't relapse because you were never really sober in the first place. It was just a time bomb waiting to happen. So it was like I was so tightly wound, and I'd been dabbling here and there with drugs, nothing major, but it was like I wasn't emotionally sober, right? Like I was not emotionally sober. My life was very chaotic and very unmanageable. Not beautiful, but the kind of fascinating thing was I successfully managed to live two lives. I successfully managed to have this persona on the outside and then behind closed doors, never fully be at peace. That doesn't mean I wasn't using drugs, but I was never serene. never serene. Like I was putting out this, I can help you. Like, oh God, like it was so two-faced. I was not practicing what I was preaching. So I really sober on any level? And so my sponsor always says, Vas, you never really relapsed. You were just like, you were just like building up towards it. And all it took was this relationship and some infidelity and some chaos and some massive wounds to your self-esteem to have this codependency kind of heighten. And then boom, using drugs were just the next symptom of that. And so that's why I think it's really important when we're talking about addiction and we're talking about if we're just talking about self-sabotage, we're talking about that, and like just looking at what leads up to it, right? So it's like here for me, it was really uncovering, why would I engage in relationships that weren't that were harmful to me in the beginning? Why would I engage in conversations with people that were harmful to me? Why would I engage in behaviors towards myself that were harmful to me? And I think it all boils down to feelings of unworthiness, and self-sabotage is what we just kind of tell ourselves to get off the hook. I'm going to be really honest. Like I used to say it all the time, like, oh, I'm just self-sabotaging. It's like, okay, well, if you're self-sabotaging, do something about it, right? But like most people can't do something about it because they're not willing to go deeper into the root of the problem. The root of the problem is really, really painful. The root of the problem, because we have to relive a lot of things that we don't want to relive. So we just put a label and we say we're self-sabotaging. But I think if you really want to kind of stop doing that, you have to be willing to do the work, whatever it is. Therapy is the quickest way to actually deal with it. Mind you, I've been in therapy since I was 12, though, so there goes my theory. But really, really willing to look at your own feelings of unworthiness and like looking at like that you do deserve love, that you do deserve success, that you do deserve financial freedom, whatever it is but who you are as you are right now, no matter how much money you have in your bank account, how much or how little you have, no matter what, that you alone, your presence is enough. You start from there, and you build on that to really start to feel worthy about yourself as you are. Most people race after things and want things because they think it's going to make them feel better, and it doesn't. And that was my life, Evan. I had everything. I mean, I still have a beautiful car. But it was the beautiful car, the fancy clothes, I would be doing the fancy spin classes, shopping at the fancy food stores, the fancy website, the fancy everything. Everything was fancy. And there's nothing wrong with fancy. I still love fancy. But I was completely empty inside. And well,
let's go into that. Let's drill down there a little bit, because that leads to the other side of the topic, which is how do we stop it? How do we stop self-sabotage? And I think you're correct. The issues tend to lie in a feeling of a lack of self-worthiness and a lack of self-love. And the solution tends to be to learn love and self-acceptance for self. And so how do you go about doing that? I mean, I understand you're part of the program and there's a lot of meetings, and that's a big part of what it is. I also know you grew up Hindu religious. It's very funny because I grew up Jewish and I consider myself still Jewish, but I basically am on the yoga mat and I'm chanting Sanskrit all the time. And I've either completely appropriated the Hindu practices without any of the dogma from the religion. So no wonder I feel so joyful when I practice, probably, because you were telling me that it doesn't necessarily fill the same void for you as it seems to fill for me. It's cured my insomnia. It's helped me lift my spirits on a daily basis. I chant the Hanuman Chalisa, and I know you know that. And so it's a different situation. So I'm fascinated in this too. And I want to talk to as many people who are having different tools in their toolbox to help build that self-love and build the joy and raise the frequency and fill that void that would cause somebody to want to maybe stop self-sabotaging. So you want to speak to that for a little bit?
Well, I want to first say this. Of course, I always have to preface everything. I've been with myself for 35 years. I've just never really enjoyed being with myself until now. So being with myself and having to I'm going to answer your question. It came not because I chose it. It's because I had to. I really freaking had to, because never did I think Miss Vasavi, double masters, Ivy League educated girl with this fancy, you know what I'm talking about. I had everything perfectly constructed and no one destroyed it but me. I did it.
Isn't that amazing? We do that.
Yeah. Holy fucking shit. I cannot believe I had no one to blame. I never blame anybody actually, but like now I really was like, oh my God, like I really have no one to blame. So when I was in rehab, I'm going to get to what I do, but like when I got to rehab, I remember people were like, oh, I've been in rehab like 17 times, man. I'm like, no, one and done. Like that's it for me. One and done. I am never going to come back here again. But as long as I'm here, I'm going to make the best of it. Like I'm going to learn what I got to learn. I'm going to sit on my hands, white knuckle grip it. And I am going to be with myself, even if I hate it, because I was very ashamed with myself. So now I'll tell you this, like what you're witnessing right now, this is my bedroom in my sober living house. Actually my roommate whose bed is right here, she's gone because she just had a relapse, which did not trigger me actually, but surprisingly, what do? I'll walk you through. You know what? Why don't I walk you through my day?
Yeah,
I get up in the morning. I first thing I do is always make my bed. It's always made before I do anything. Oh, I have my journal and I have it on my desk. You can't see it, but I have an everyday mindfulness book and I have a journal. I write in my journal every night, but I'll get to my night, but I write it in at night. And this book, Everyday Mindfulness, just is like dated. And so I flip to the day and then it just has something to get me thinking. I need to replace the thoughts that in my brain with a different intention. Do you know what I mean? Because as an addict, I do think very, very differently. And so I wake up with worry, like I do. I mean, I'm heavily medicated, but I wake up with worry still. I mean, there's no amount of medication to change his brain, but I've slowed down a lot. I get on my knees. So I get on my knees over there and I pray. And I'm not a Christian, and I know that that's like a Christian thing, but it really, for me, it's like a sign of humility. Gets me to kind of drop down, and I'll have a conversation with God. I'll be like, all right, God, what are we doing today? Like, I hope we have a really good day. Oh, and I wanted to ask you about this, and I'll wait for your cues throughout the day. So I look at prayer like this. I don't say that I want anything. I don't want anything, you know. It's just a matter of like, you know, God, I'm like worrying about this and I really don't want to. So can you please just lift these worries from me? Can you give me a sign? Can you give me a sign, or show me a way for me to deal with XYZ situation, whatever it is. It's my relationship with God, right? People think it has to sound a certain way, like it's whatever conversation I want to have. And I'll get the answers throughout the day, or maybe 3 days later. I'm not going to get my answers right away. So I do that. And
so
then I
now,
get up.
let me stop you right there. What do we say to the atheists? Because I'm kind of halfway there. Like, I'm super spiritual. I believe, you know, I talk to God all the time. God may be a computer. As far as I'm concerned, it may be an alien. I don't know, you know, who manipulated our DNA and created man. I don't know if they're listening. I do believe that there's infinite spiritual wisdom and that there is something that connects us all, you know, prana, the force, chi, whatever it is. So I have no problem when somebody says God, no matter what religion they're from, just doing the auto translate in my head to whatever word or non-word that I have. But for people who just don't believe in God and maybe don't respond to the AA program because they think it's too religious, but they're resonating with the rest of your message, is there a way to reinterpret what you said to make, you know, not change the message, but for a different audience?
Yeah. So first of all, it's just a word, right? So God is, for me, I'm sorry for everyone that's so bruised and traumatized from organized religion. I'm not bruised and traumatized because Hinduism is one of the most beautiful ways of life. I was very blessed to be born into that. I'm not traumatized like a lot of Christians, Catholics are. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. So I don't mind using the word God. I've never minded to use the word, because I know when I say God, it really just is a power greater than me. No form, no gender, no idol, no nothing like that. It's just the voice in my head. So the way I would say that, I would say higher power, higher self. If I had to describe what God means to me, it's the other voice in my head, right? We have the voice in our head that tells us life is going to be shitty. Our day is going to be shitty. This person's out to get us. God is the voice that's like, you know what? Chill out. Chill out. It's not a big deal. That's God for me. It's the voice. It's the force. It's the being that keeps me relaxed. And has a different perspective other than the resentful, worryful, angry, mean Vasavi, which I can get to.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And in yoga, that's, called the witness place, or the awareness behind the awareness, the who sees behind the eyes, all of that. So that's amazing. So go on. This is great.
Great. So then I do my routine. I pray, and then my dog, Lainey, come here. Lainey is my.
Hey, Lainey. Oh, the sweet little golden pup.
Yeah, she is. So she is allowed to stay with me at the sober living house because she's an emotional support animal. So I have my dog with me. She was in rehab with me too.
Aren't all animals emotional support animals?
Honestly, they are.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have to give you a letter for this, So she's with me. I feed her. Dog food's right there. You have to remember, and I'm letting you know, like, I lived in a 1,000 square foot apartment that was $1,600 just 4 months ago. That's where I was living. That I paid for all by myself. I have a beautiful black BMW 328 outside that I still pay for. I'm saying this to you to show you I could be living here. So what I want to say is this: I was living in that $1,600 apartment, snorting cocaine. I'm sitting in this apartment doing an interview with you, and I've never been happier.
Which is a lot. Your $1,600 apartment in Austin would probably cost $3,000 a month here in LA. And I completely understand what you're talking about. I used to live in a 3-bedroom massive apartment right on the beach in Venice Beach for a long time. And that's where I did all my hardest partying, 10-foot ceilings and like furniture that should go in a house that my parents gave me from their house when they, changed their furniture. And like, I'm way happier here in a very simple kind of environs where I live. I have a big wood floor. I got my yoga mat down there. I got my harmonium. I got my keyboard. Like, it's all I need. And I totally know what you mean. That's the mixed blessing in losing everything. And that's the cliche where, you have to lose everything in order to find yourself sometimes. And then you realize that you had more than you ever knew.
I know. Look at this. I just want to show your people this. I have this. Top 3 drawers are mine, and half of this is mine. The rest of my shit's in storage. I wear the same shit like every 5 days.
It makes it easier. It makes it easier. I mean, I don't know if you remember that old movie, The Fly, with Jeff Goldblum, where like they go into his closet and he looks like he wears the same thing every day and he never changes his clothes. And then he opens his closet in the morning to get changed, and he has 7 of the exact same suit and 7 white shirts and 7 of the same shoes, and he literally does change clothes every day, but it's the same thing that he wears every day. But simplicity sometimes brings peace of mind. Sometimes too many options lead to option paralysis in our society. And like that FOMO feeling that I was talking about last week in my anxiety episode, talking about the 6 types of anxiety. One of them was anxiety related to FOMO, or the fear of missing out, and feeling like you always have to be somewhere else doing something else, anywhere but here, anytime but now. So and we all know, obviously, where I grew up in Beverly Hills, we have a lot of functional addicts here. So I don't think anybody doubts that addicts can remain functional and run businesses and to a certain extent have your life together. Did you get to a point where your entire business fell apart and you had to stop taking on clients, or did you get to finish all of your commitments to the clients that you had before? Like, did any of that get interfered with by this last round of self-sabotage?
Yes, it did. I would say that, and I want to say this, I know addiction is not self-sabotage. Addiction is a disease of the mind. So I do want to say that. And with that, I mean, I think the fact that, I think that all addicts, all humans self-sabotage, but it is even more prevalent when it comes to addicts, because we've been running since we were kids. This just this way of thinking.
Right. So like all addicts, all self-saboteurs are not necessarily addicts, but all addicts are self-saboteurs.
100%. I would say, like, I had up to 25 clients a day. I was making $10,000 a month consistently I made $120,000 last year, and I only know that because my dad is a CPA and he does my taxes, and he was like, "What did you do with all your money?" So you're
like, "Dad, cocaine's expensive."
Yeah. Robin Williams always said, if you're making a lot of money if you're using cocaine, or no, if you're using cocaine, you're making a lot of money, like something like that. He said something really funny, but I love Robin Williams. But I did I didn't lose clients. The clients did not fire me, but because the cocaine was deteriorating on my health, like, my not only my self-esteem, but it's fucking exhausting, right? Like if you're literally up for 3 days straight, or even if you like party for one night until 7 a.m. and you're gonna go to, I mean, like, it's a lot. So started taking Xanax too because of that. My clientele started going down because I didn't care whether or not they renewed with me. Like they might want to work with me. And usually the conversation at the end of with my clients would be like, all right, so we're going to renew our packages. I didn't even care. I was so tired. I didn't even care. So I went down to like having like 2 or 3 clients, and I ended up finishing up with those clients. And then I went to rehab.
Yeah, I understand that we get to a point where if we are harming ourselves enough, we have to disengage completely. So that's probably a healthy move that you let your clients kind of finish up their course, and then you spent time on Vasavi. So since we could talk all day, and it's fascinating, but now you're obviously in on the other side of this, or you're getting there. And so you'll be in this facility for a little while longer. Are you already back to business? Or are you already taking new clients, or does that come later?
No, I'm not back to clients right now. I'm actually just in the process of this afternoon. I'm putting back new packages for people, letting them know if they want to work with me, they can. I've been working part-time jobs here and there, but I don't really know if I want to take on clients. Like, I'm not gung-ho about it. I'm really not. Like, yeah. I don't mind if someone. No, Evan, I really want. I have other creative projects. Like, I want to start a podcast. You know what I mean? I just want to talk and monetize myself through a podcast. I've had my own radio show before. Like, I don't mind helping people for free. I'm like, I would naturally do that, but I don't necessarily need to get paid for it. Like, I don't know. No, I mean, like I said, I'm sending out an email tomorrow about like, here are 2 ways that you can work with me if you want to. I've lost a lot of credibility in the eyes of my list when they found out that I went to rehab. And I think that's my fault, because maybe I put myself on the pedestal that I shouldn't have put myself on. But I was very transparent I've been very transparent in my business about bipolar disorder, about anxiety. We even went to jail in March, like, listen, life is not perfect all the time, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't care. I got to be honest. Like, everyone has a journey, and I'm not here to kiss your ass.
Well, you're not also not, no one expects anybody to be the perfect person. We do everyone's got their own journey. Everyone's got their inner demons to battle. But the thing that makes you such a helpful person, the thing that made you a successful coach consultant in the first place, is your ability to be kind of that kick in the ass that people need to, get over themselves and get their shit done. So like, even when things were bad for you, you were able to help other people. And now you're coming to the next place. You don't know where that's going to be. But, I know that you don't give a fuck what people say. We already covered that. At the same time, it's very brave to come out and be able to say, hey, I slipped and I went through this thing, and here's where I'm at now, and I just got out of rehab. I got that email. It made me want to talk to you, so you're going to attract the people. I don't know if it was Eben Pagan or Frank Kern, but someone said, the number one way to attract your most loyal fan base is to repel absolutely everybody else. And so if you're repelling people who can't take it, that you're human and that you're not perfect, those aren't necessarily your ideal audience or demographic going forward anyway. You'll attract the people that are attracted to your story and inspired by your bravery, like I am. So I see, really great things coming for you and for anybody who wants to work with you. So if people do want to get in touch with you, how would they do that, Vasavi?
Go to vasavikumar.com. I have a free training. So it's vasavikumar.com/focused action. If you have a free video training, and if you want to talk, I'm open. I have 2 packages that I'm absolutely in love with, and that really has to do with turning your messy story into mindful messaging. So, for example, a lot of the people that I have worked with have really compelling stories, which they're kind of ashamed of. Like, oh my God, I was raped. I know that sounds awful. I was raped. and I want to be able to share this to help other women or but they don't know how to craft it. They don't know they don't even know how to write an email about it. They haven't made sense out of it in their head, let alone and I'm not the therapist for that, you know what I mean? But like, if you have something really compelling about your life, where it's fascinating, and you want to share your message with somebody, but you don't even know how to create a media pitch, you don't know how to pitch yourself, you don't know how to speak about it, and you're being and let's just say you're about to be interviewed, and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, I'm the person for you. I am excellent at crafting media pitches. I'm really good at looking at the good and the bad in people. I hate saying good and bad, but like I have a horrible, awesome tendency to see the best and only the best in people. But I've used that to my advantage with clients because I can see the stuff that they can't even see. Like, and then we could take kind of the magnified bad stuff about themselves, and then we kind of craft something really cool and compelling that a podcast host would be like, I'd love to have you on my show, right? Or yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
And then the other one, yeah. And then the other one is kind of people who want to work with me long term. It's called Get Clear with Vasavi. Like I said, I'm a licensed social worker, so I'm all about like longevity. So I love working with people for a long time. All the clients that I worked with were repeat clients for like almost a year. So I only take a handful of clients for that. But if you're interested, that's all on my website. And like I said, I'm not pushing it right now because I've just, I'm in a different place right now. I kind of say who it is that I am. If you were drawn to what I had to say, if you'd love to get to know me, vice versa, then just reach out to me through the contact section of my website.
Thank you for coming here and talking with me today on Evan Talks. Vasavi Kumar, it was great to be with you.
Thanks, Evan.
Well, that's all we have for tonight. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Next week, I'm going to be talking with Abby Levine. Abby is an emotional transformation strategist and a certified hypnotherapist. She's been voted, in fact, the best hypnotherapist in Los Angeles for the last 4 years by daily news readers. And I'm going to be talking with Abby about the psychology of self-sabotage. Now, have you ever noticed sometimes you can really want to do something, but your body and brain seem to want you to do something else? Well, we're going to get deep into that next week. We're going to cover how to become aware of self-sabotage when it starts to creep up and what to do to stop it and undo it. You're not going to want to miss next week's episode as I continue this deep dive into self-sabotage. So that's it for now. Thanks again for coming to Evan Talks this week. Have a great week coming up. Remember to stay informed on important issues, and thanks for letting me help you out with that. This is Yogi Ev signing out. Peace.